Sujewa, welcome back. It's good to talk to you again on here. It's been a while. And I think since we last talked, you've got some exciting news coming up about your screenings this week, happening at the Film Noir Cinema in Brooklyn. So I want to turn it over to you and tell us what you've got coming up this week and some of the details.
Awesome. All right. Nice to be back on the show. Hot summer day, 90 degrees here in Brooklyn. So we have actually the list is right behind me. Only in theaters already screened. Cosmic Disco Detective Renee opens tomorrow, July 12th at 7 p.m. Chetsumoka's Curse by Rick Schmidt, Dogma number 10, July 12th, tomorrow at 9 p.m. Then Thank You 5, right there. Thank You 5, July 13th, Saturday at 5 p.m. Filmmakers are coming in from Austin and Chicago for that. I'll be there also. Then Saturday, Cosmic Disco Detective Renee again at 7 p.m. Then Sunday until Thursday, 7 p.m. Renee movie. I'll be there for all the shows, all the 9 shows I believe that are coming up. And Rick Schmidt will call in for his movie to do the Q&A tomorrow for Chetsumoka's Curse. So that is the first week of NYC Indie Arthouse Summer Film Festival happening at Film Noir Cinema. And we may bring in, extend some movies and bring in other movies down the road. Let's see. Let's see how the first week goes.
That sounds great. I can tell you I'm a fan of Cosmic Disco Detective Renee and Chetsumoka's Curse, which I've seen. So Rick Schmidt is a big inspiration, I think, to anybody making indie feature films out there. So it's great to see that his film has been programmed. What can you tell us about Thank You Five?
I think I sent you a screener, right? I don't
Yeah, I
know if
haven't had a chance to watch the film yet,
okay.
but I'm
Yeah, no
curious.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a first time feature by 2 directors. It's about making of a play in Chicago, and we did a new they did a new black and white version for this festival. So this is the world premiere. So it's a very good movie about if you're into theater, if you're into filmmaking, art making. It's a very good movie about the process, the ups and downs. There's some comedy in there, and it's one of the movies won a lot of awards and have gone into a lot of festivals. Well made black and white movie, and I look forward to showing it with the filmmakers on Saturday.
Cool, that's great. I'm glad that you're bringing the filmmakers in for Q&A and that Rick Schmidt's calling in and give the audience a chance to interact with them, ask some questions, and of course
I'll
you'll
be
be there.
there
Yeah,
introducing and doing Q&A for all the shows.
yeah. Um, Chance Milka's Curse. Now I was thinking about this. That came out in was it 2000 originally?
2000, 2001, I think. Yeah,
Okay, nice. So it's not quite the 25th anniversary, but it's getting there. That's a
yeah,
nice.
about 20. Yeah, more than 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice that you're bringing it back to see on the big screen. Was that I forget the number. Was that the 10th film that was certified for Dogma
Dogma
95?
number 10.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's great. I've watched it recently, actually a couple of times, and
Awesome.
yeah, it's a favorite of mine among Rick Schmidt's films.
Yeah,
Uh,
you need to take the next week off and come hang out in Brooklyn. Have
I wish I'm about to
open
start
road.
filming Hammett. Yeah, the
That's
new
right.
new film this week. Yeah. But no, I mean it's great what you're doing there at the Film Noir Cinema. It sounds like a really exciting program, and I know it'll be fun to see your film on the big screen again with an audience. I was wondering if you wanted to talk at all about this because I think when we last spoke, you had been kind of experimenting like with the online release model, and I know that you've talked a lot about the importance of what you see as like the longer theatrical window. And I've been kind of, I think I'm kind of on the same page as you, where it's like there's a lot of mileage to get out of a theatrical screening for reasons we can talk about. I was wondering if you had any insights or thoughts that you wanted to share on that.
When a movie plays in the movie theaters, it just seems more real. It's possible to get more attention to the movie, positive or negative, and it stands out from the VOD clutter. So that's why I like showing movies, indie movies, really any kind of movie at movie theaters, especially indie art house movies that will end up mostly being watched on VOD. The live screenings are the best way to see it, and also a really good way to promote them.
Yeah, no, there's definitely the promotional aspect, getting to see it on the big screen, no distractions, free from.
And fast forward.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's true because I think we've talked about slow cinema and that's so dependent on pacing. And I think that when you're at home, sometimes there can be that temptation at least to, reach for that remote for some people perhaps. And so it's nice that in the theater you're on the film's time. You're there to see it unfold as the filmmaker intended, no distractions. And yeah, I think it's really the best way to get the experience. I think that's something about your film and also Rick Schmidt's films is that they're on their own wavelength, and I think to get the most out of it, you have to meet these films on their own terms. Don't go in expecting it to be something that it's not. That a fast-paced Hollywood blockbuster or whatever. They yield a lot of rewards. Are very very rich films. And I think you can only get that by really focusing in a movie theater and putting down all the distractions. So I'm glad that there's another reason I'm glad to hear that you've gotten these screenings together. Um, what are your so is there anything I spoke with Sarah Lamberg a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was, about her film that had screened at the Film Noir Cinema. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the theater, what makes it special, anything you'd like to share about the Film Noir Cinema.
Sure. The theater is great for indie art house special events. The theater is very accessible. You could just go to the theater, talk to the owner. He's often there. I mean, I think he's there almost every day, and then you can put together a program with him. Yeah, it's very special theater. Every city needs theaters like that. New York could use more theaters like that. A lot of, as you know, a lot of art house festivals and theaters are not really accessible. You can't just email or go up to a place and talk to them and get an answer on programming or showing your movie. So what I like about the theater, other than it being a really cool looking theater and a large screen, fun place to show a movie. Capacity is 50, which is great for these small movies. And other than that, the accessibility is what I really like about Film Noir Cinema.
Nice. Yeah, it's good
And
when.
it's in a really good town. I mean, a really good part of the town.
Oh yeah, in Greenpoint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice when you have kind of a smaller, intimate space like that because it does give the audience, I think, a sense of shared connection with each other as much as with the film. You don't tend to get lost in being in a really large space, and yet it's also a comfortable space. That's the 50-seat theater. There was a theater I used to go to here in Baltimore back in the 90s, the Orpheum Cinema, and I think the seating capacity was around that. It may have been a little bit more, but it was a unique vibe in there because you're still seeing the movie on a big screen with an audience, but at the same time there was a sense of just yeah, kind of like it was like an intimate space. You didn't feel like it was being lost in this giant auditorium. So yeah, I think for this type of film, it sounds like the film noir cinema space it's just like a perfect match. I've actually been thinking about this recently with different screening venues for different types of films.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is a whole other conversation for another time, but I do think it's interesting to think about how sensitive these distinctions are. And when you have the exact, the right film in the right space with the right audience, magic happens.
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about how Kevin Costner opened his movie on 3,300 or so movie, screen theaters, wide release, right? Wide release US. And it didn't do well to hold on to the theaters. So that's, wide releases, they're tough to do. They're super expensive.
Yeah.
Each one of those theaters, I mean, just to release on 3,000 plus theaters, it probably cost him more than 20 million. So just imagine the pressure the movie's under to perform just to hold on to the screen, right? So that's kind of insane. So that's why a lot of movies really should be released like art house small releases. Build up the momentum over time. Let them live in theaters. trying to launch them widescreen, especially something unique. I mean, Kevin Costner is a famous actor and now director, but the movie is like a saga. It's multiple stories, expanding, four different movies. That's more of like an art house thing. So you need to slowly build the audience for that. I guess they figured, he's famous, everything will sell out, but that's very tough to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just saw Horizon this past weekend, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I thought it was it was a good film, certainly a good one to see on the big screen. But it was interesting to read about the challenges that it's faced, and now, of course, that he's also got three other films in the series coming out, which opens up other issues. But I have a lot of respect for Costner for putting his own money into that film. It was clearly a passion project. But like you said, I think perhaps it's something that could have benefited from some sort of an alternative release strategy. I don't know what would have looked like for that film, but it's possible, I guess, to roll it out maybe in more limited screenings and try
Yeah,
to build an audience.
200, yeah, 200 theaters, then expand, build word of mouth, and get people super excited. The wide release strategy seemed always risky to me because you're trying to make all your money in one weekend, and chances of failure are high when you're trying to do that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something else. So recently, I had a chance to see a film called Vexations
Mhm.
by a filmmaker, Matthew Thurber, and it was an interesting film. It was 16 millimeter, very experimental type of presentation, a lot of interactive um, aspects, like with music that was being played live and narration that was being done live. And it was what struck me about it when I watched this presentation. It was really, I mean, it's a movie, but it's more than that. It's really an experience. And what struck me about it was that in order to work, it really requires the filmmaker to be present because he's so involved I mean, he's running the entire show. The projectors, there's two projectors, there's records being played, there's the narration being delivered. And knowing what you've done with your screenings and always being there for Q&A and being a big supporter of or a big proponent of filmmaker Q&A, I'm curious what you see in the indie world with filmmakers taking their movies around to different, whether it's different theaters or different cities, whatever. How vital do you think it is for the filmmaker to be present with his or her film?
I think for the indie art house stuff, the more you could be with your film when it plays, the better it will go, and it'll be a better experience for the audience.
Mhm.
But if you're doing wider releases, you can't do that. Maybe you can Skype in, not Skype, Zoom in, or have some pre-recorded intro or outro section, Q&A section. But always better if someone from the movie can show up to a screening.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's not always possible, but when you can, it really adds a lot to it. I think that's something that in the indie film world, and possibly with all films, ideally, but I think especially in the indie film world where, the filmmaker's presence can add so much to it. And I was thinking about, when I talked to Sarah about her The Lies We Tell Ourselves, a film that was at the Film Noir Cinema. And she was just telling me about what a great experience it is, how much she enjoys doing Q&A and that sort of thing. And I was thinking that is something that filmmakers and indie filmmakers, if they're not comfortable with it, I think they're going to have to get comfortable with it because it is something that adds so much to the experience and opens up so many doors about theaters being willing to show your movie because I think it's a big added incentive. And I know that's something you're a big proponent of with your entire series. So I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but I think it's just your series is a good example of that model. And it's great that Rick Schmidt. Do you think that do you feel a lot of? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are familiar with his books, even if maybe they haven't seen one of his films. I think a lot of people are familiar with his books, and so aspiring filmmakers, people just getting into filmmaking, I think can learn so much from him. So I'm sure they won't want to miss that Q&A. And you said there were two filmmakers, right? With Thank You Five, there's
Yeah,
two directors. So
yeah,
yeah,
Reed and Michael, they're coming on Saturday.
Great. So yeah, people can hear about how they work together and that whole process. So there's a lot to learn as well and as to enjoy from your series here.
Awesome.
I have a question about Cosmic Disco Detective for a minute. I know that in the I think it was the last time we talked, you had mentioned you were starting work on a new film in that series.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you are prepared to share? Any updates you're prepared to share about that at this point?
Yeah, we are trying to finish up the script, and I did some test shoots, and we did some rehearsals, some improvised shoots. So right after this festival, I'm going to get busy on finishing that. So that could be the next thing I release. Another thing I wanted to add that's useful for indie filmmakers, producing film festivals and screenings, really pushes you to deal with fundraising and promotions, and that is a key aspect of filmmaking. So any skills you sharpen or develop by doing film screenings, you can use the same skills when you make and release your next movie. Indie movies, or and possibly all movies, there's a layer of fundraising, release, and marketing work that supports the movie and the ticket sales. So you're not necessarily relying on ticket sales to keep the project going. There's earlier fundraising and later fundraising that's done to keep the project going. So by doing these things, by producing, directing, distributing, marketing, and also by producing film festivals and promoting them, you get to experience, or you have to experience, all these different aspects that make it possible for you to keep making movies.
That's a really good point. I'm glad you mentioned that because yeah, it's definitely skills that can serve you in both areas of production and exhibition. So that's great to keep in mind. On that note, have there been any, learning experiences you've had from setting up this latest screening that you would impart to anyone thinking about doing it themselves?
Yeah, yeah, it takes a lot of time. Communication is very important. Work with filmmakers who are going to, communicate fast and clearly, and also work with filmmakers who have social media, who are active on social media, who have websites, who update, who develop mailing lists. All that will help with getting the word out about about various screenings. So all filmmakers, especially indie filmmakers, should totally get into social media, totally get into maintaining a web presence. Very important and useful for any exhibition, screening, or just fundraising for the next project.
Indeed, and in addition to all of that, by allowing it, well, it allows people to find your films,
Right.
and there's a greater
And you
chance
as
of
an
people coming
artist.
across it. And you never know if somebody might be out there thinking about putting together a little film festival in their city or in their town, and they might just think, who can I reach out to who might be interested in showing something? And they see, your festival that you've done, they hear about your film, and they think, well, maybe this person would be, on the same wavelength. Maybe he or she would be amenable to what I'm trying to do. And so you reach out, make your contact information available. I know it all sounds like a long shot, but I think that is how these things work. And
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not a long shot at all. Not it's a not a long shot at all. It's just how things work.
mhm.
We talk to people who are doing things that we want to do or similar things, and those are the ideal people. Also, same with someone who has money who wants to get involved in a film project. If they don't know that you exist, the possibility of funding your project in some way will never come up. So you have to let people know that you exist, that you're fundraising, you're showing movies, you're releasing movies. Then interested people will gravitate towards those projects.
Yeah, and I think the enthusiasm that comes across in it is it's infectious, right? It makes people.
Awesome.
I think it gets people excited that they want to see what you're putting on, and then it also gets them excited to try something on their own. And you can hopefully have some cross-pollination of ideas going on and work together, and screen each other's films or whatever that comes out of it. I was thinking about this recently that one of the advantage to me of live screenings is it can really help to strengthen a local film community, whether that's in a large city like New York with a large film community or in a place where it might be much smaller. But either way, the local screenings strengthen that community, which is so important.
Mhm.
Um, but the online presence, whether we're talking about showing the film online or simply making information about it available, I think that is, I don't want to say equally important necessarily, but it's certainly of high importance to it's getting the word out, it's creating greater awareness, obviously, but I feel like there is something there is something really important about that as well. Maybe it's a little hard for me to articulate it at the moment, but I was thinking about this recently, and I think it is something where you have to take both strategies.
Hmm. Well, you could put together a theatrical screening, but it's dependent on many things. There could be bad weather, there could be subway strikes or closures. You know, hardly anyone may show up for various reasons for the screening. But if you're doing it and you're promoting it, it'll be documented online, and you can keep promoting it when the VOD comes out. And just the fact that you showed it, regardless of how many people showed up and what the response was, just the fact that you showed it in the real world and you documented it online and you're promoting it, moves your project ahead of the other indie art house VOD projects because there's just more content online about your project. So the physical real world screenings are great for building up promo content for movies. So even if no one shows up, or 5 people show up, or 50 people show up to a screening, I'm always happy because by the time a screening happens, a ton of work has been done, and it's either on my computer or online, and I can reuse that stuff to promote the movie in the future.
Yeah, and it's so rewarding to see it all come together like that, and to know that you've done all that work, and like you said, even if it's just 5 people, that's still 5 people more than if you didn't have the screening at all, and
That's right.
if you did zero promotion. And by the way, I love the posters. I saw your photos. You had the posters on the subways. I thought that was a
All
really
right,
clever
right, right.
idea. I like that.
I'm going to be
Yeah,
doing whenever I go to the theater for the next 7 days starting tomorrow. I'm going to take photos all over New York with those
nice.
flyers and posters.
Yeah, something I was playing around with, hardly a revolutionary idea or anything, but is just creating like little postcards that could be left in bookstores, record stores, coffee shops, any place that might be amenable to you putting down some postcards. I tried that with my film, and also in space, any kind of like community space where there's a like a bulletin board or a tack board. I find that that's a great place for it too. And postcard is a good size. It's not going to overwhelm the entire board. So postcards can be kind of an all-purpose thing. I thought Sarah had a brilliant idea, which I don't know if you saw this, but I think she had it there at the screening, but in the photo there was it was like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with a QR code
Hmm.
for the film. So I guess even if people see the photo online, they can easily scan that, and it takes you to the website where you can inquire about booking the film, I think, or the official web page or whatever. But I thought that's a really good idea. So QR codes, things like that.
And
Yeah.
live screenings are very important for fundraising for future projects. And
Right,
when
right.
you do a live screening, even if hardly anyone shows up, at least people will see that you finished a movie and you're showing it, so that when you're raising money for the next one, they'll understand, or they'll have the understanding. Most likely, this guy or this lady will finish this movie and it'll come out. So it's just not people donating to a project that'll never get done.
Yeah, and I think there's also a sense of personal commitment that or yeah, like a sense that you're willing to stand by the film, that you're willing to, charge people money to come in and, buy their ticket and sit and watch it. And I think that shows a commitment to your film, a belief in your film.
Yeah, definitely. Doing shows, selling tickets, promoting, super important for an indie filmmaker, especially in this environment when a lot of indie art house VOD movies come out and they're hardly promoted. This is a good way to build your local following, get responses, see the movie on the big screen. One thing I'm going to do this coming week is I'm going to watch it every day when it plays, and I'm going to work on the new script, working off of the ideas I see, on the big screen, and my thoughts about that experience. So it'll help with the writing of the next script and the next number of movies. I'm planning 51 new movies in the series, partially inspired by how quickly the YouTube filmmakers make movies. So I'm going to try to bring in that speed into my filmmaking work. But the key thing is to have them be amazing. So the speed is a secondary concern, but I do want to make movies faster. I'd like to do one feature every month or two going forward.
Yeah, it's ambitious, but I think it's possible if you have the ideas laid out and the working method that works for you. If you
Mhm.
have all that in place, that's exciting. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear things are going well with the next project in the Cosmic Disco Detective Renee world.
That's right. It'll be
Yeah,
more of a regular comedy,
mhm.
faster, but we'll see how it turns out. We
Yeah.
have a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything. I thought there was something I wanted to ask you about this, but I maybe it'll come to me in a minute. We
Oh,
can,
one thing I should add is that
yeah.
filmmakers should communicate more
Mhm.
with other filmmakers, with the public, get online more, email, ask questions, do videos. So you can never, you should try to always over communicate, and you can never, it's never too much because when you do a festival, you realize so many people haven't been contacted, so many people don't know about a project that more needs to be done always. And the second thing is, yeah, don't be afraid to tackle fundraising projects. They'll be difficult. You'll fail at first, but over time, you'll get used to it and you'll get into a rhythm of publicity, fundraising, making and releasing your movies. These difficult things, communication, publicity, fundraising, indie filmmakers must tackle and become comfortable with.
I remembered what I wanted to mention real quick on the subject of community. Now, this is obviously a matter of degrees here that we're talking about, but it reminds me of the article that I had seen that you had shared about Coppola and this hotel that he opened in Georgia. That
Yeah,
I believe he used it for the post production of his own film Megalopolis, and I guess it's going to stand, it's going to be functional and operating and
that's
open to the
where I'm going to
public.
stay when I visit Atlanta.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a great idea because it really supports the filmmaking community at large. It's kind of a way of yeah, supporting that community of I don't know,
And it's
giving
another
back.
revenue stream for Coppola.
What's that?
And it's another revenue stream for Coppola.
Oh yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, I know he's always looking at different business models, business ventures to help support his filmmaking. Another filmmaker, I've got to say, I haven't had a chance to see his new film yet because it's not out. But I have a lot of respect for him putting his money into that, and it's interesting how whether we're talking about him or Kevin Costner or filmmakers like ourselves, it may be just a matter of degrees, but it gets back to your point. It's the same principle of the fundraising, the promotion, of being your own biggest advocate and just getting the films out there. So there's a lot we
Yeah,
can learn.
we're
Yeah.
doing things on the $1,000 scale.
Yeah.
They're doing things on the $1 million scale, which is 1,000 times bigger than what we're doing. But small micro budget projects and filmmakers could very well, within a couple of projects, do the Coppola, Lucas, um, Kevin Costner scale. So it's just the same work times 1,000, just on a much bigger scale. But at first, you have to figure out what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this screening, the Indie Arthouse Summer at the Film Noir Cinema, sounds like a great project, great
Thank you.
series. I wanted to make sure to get you on here to talk about it since it does start tomorrow, going through Thursday. Is that the 18th? Thursday the 18th, I
Yeah,
believe. Yeah.
starting tomorrow and goes through the 18th. And the New York City government says everyone should take the week off and come to my event.
Right. Well, I hope you get a good turnout for it, and I do my part to spread the word and get the word out there. And I'll be busy at work myself on a new film, but I
Awesome.
can't wait to hear how it all goes. And maybe, later on in the summer we can catch up and have another chat about how this one went and any future plans that you're working on. I'm always up for talking indie film with you, Sujewa.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll do updates, photos, video, all that. I want to try to keep this series going every year, so maybe we'll try to get one of your movies out here next year. And maybe some of these movies can travel to Baltimore. So let's see what's possible.
Definitely. Let's talk and see what we can do. All
Awesome.
right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to mention before we
Come
sign off?
to Film Noir Cinema starting tomorrow night and Saturday, 5 p.m. Lots of movies. Cosmic Disco Detective Renee, Katsumoko's Curse, Thank You Five with filmmakers. Great networking opportunity for filmmakers, actors, and media, and a great chance to watch movies and meet filmmakers for audiences. So I'll see all of New York there. I want lines going down the block and everything to sell out and us having to extend everything.
All right. Sounds good. Well, good luck with everything, and
Awesome.
we will talk soon, I'm sure.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.